everyone, my name is Vincent L. Samson. I'm from BS Math, Section B. My report is all about medieval period fine art. Medieval period is also known as Middle Age. The medieval era is the period in European history that took place between 350 AD to 1450 AD. Medieval art is an account of history of an interrogation of technique between the elements of classical early Christian and barbarian that were produced in different media and style. Medieval period, Middle Age or Dark Age. Early medieval art in Europe is an amalgamation of the artistic heritage of the Roman Empire. Ang medieval kay naka-apply siya sa bisag unsang klase sa mga media. Ang amalgamation is giisa or gitapok, and ang heritage is pamana. Book of Kells. Book of Kells, known as a Book of Columbia, is a gospel book, one of the finest and most famous. The work is the most famous of the medieval illuminated manuscripts for the intricacy, detail, and majesty of the illustration. Medieval architecture is architecture common in the Middle Age and includes religious, civil, and military buildings. Most of the serving medieval architecture is to be seen in churches and castles. Cathedral. Cathedral is an example of medieval architecture na ay different style ang medieval. Example, Gothic, Pre-Romanesque, Romanesque. So kaning cathedral, ambience is nabilong siya sa Gothic architecture kay tungod sa beauty sa iyahang interior, elevation, prodigious, sculpted, decoration, and iyahang stained glass. Pag Pre-Romanesque, kay thick rubble walls, smaller windows, vaultless roofs, and limited ornamental arch. Pag Romanesque naman, more refined style and increased use of the vault and dressed stone.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are the group 10, and I am Sheena Santiago, one of the reporters for this topic. So for this afternoon, we will talk about medieval period to fine art. To start off, let us take a look what medieval period to fine art means. So Renaissance is a series of literary and cultural movements that began in Italy and eventually expanded into Germany, France, England, and other parts of Europe. So Renaissance means a rebirth or revival and a time of new discoveries in fine arts, music, literature, philosophy, science and technology, architecture, religion, and spirituality. Okay, Renaissance was a time of great change for the world. So in this period of time, saw the emergence of new knowledge and progress in many different areas of life. This progress led to many new ideas and innovations, including the development of new religions. The Renaissance saw a revival in the study of classical texts and philosophy, which led to the development of new ideas in these fields. So there are evolution of Renaissance art took place in three stages. First is early Renaissance, High Renaissance, Late Renaissance, or Manierism. So in the early Renaissance period began in Florence towards the end of the 4th century. During this period, a revolution in philosophy, science, and mathematics dramatically changed composition and representation in the arts. So, the early Renaissance saw a tremendous amount of change, both culturally and artistically. This period of time is often referred to as the Golden Age of the arts, and for a good reason. Artists during this time were able to create some of the most beautiful art in history. High Renaissance. The High Renaissance produces the most, the best, and the art that epitomizes the movement. It includes the big names like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. In High Renaissance was a time of great change and progress in the arts. Artists during the High Renaissance were able to experiment more and create some of the most beautiful artworks that have ever been created. This period saw the rise of many great artists, including Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Raphael. These artists were able to create some of the most iconic artworks in history, including the Sistine Chapel ceiling and the Mona Lisa. Late Renaissance and Mannerism. While technically masterful, Mannerist compositions were full of flashing colors, disquieting figures, and abnormally elongated limbs, emotion, and bizarre themes that combine classicism, Christianity, and mythology. This means that the late Renaissance and Mannerism movements in art, these movements were a period of change that began in the 1520s and continued until the end of the 60th century. This period saw the development of many new techniques and styles, as well as renewed interest in classical antiquity. The late Renaissance was a time of great innovation and creativity, and many of the most famous artists of the period, such as Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Raphael, are now considered some of the greatest artists of all time. Next is Renaissance art versus medieval art. The art of the Renaissance is more visually accurate and secular. In Renaissance art, human emotions were depicted liberally. The Renaissance paintings, on the other hand, were complicated and had more depth due to the use of linear perspective, while medieval art made lesser use of emotions. Humans were very natural and lifelike. They had realistic expressions, unlike the humans depicted in the medieval art. In the medieval period, the art was simple and monodimensional. During medieval period, the artworks had religious themes and were inspired by the Gothic culture. So, Renaissance and medieval art are both very important parts of history. Renaissance art is the art of the time between the Middle Ages and the modern era, while medieval art is the art of Middle Ages. Both styles are very different, but they both have their own unique features. Neoclassicism. It started in 1760 as a reaction against Baroque and Rococo styles. Neoclassicism is characterized by order, symmetry, and simplicity of style. So Neoclassicism is characterized by its emphasis on geometric forms and often uses classical European motifs such as laurels and garlands, while Neoclassicism is often associated with the work of artists like Jacques Louis David and Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot. It can be found in a wide variety of mediums. For example, neoclassical churches like the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris are typically built in classical styles, while neoclassical paintings like the Hay Wagon by American painter Andrew Waite often feature simply geometric forms. The Oath of the Horatii is an oil canvas, and it was published on 1784 by Jacques Louis David. So the painting entitled The Oath of the Horatii is a famous piece of art by Jacques Louis David. David is known for his neoclassical style, and the Oath of the Horati is the perfect example of this. The painting is a scene from the Iliad, and it shows the heroes sworn to protect one another. The painting is full of detail, and it is a beautiful work of art.
So, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. So, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Armond Craig Caroga, one of the member of Group 10. So, I'm going to discuss about basically the artists of the early Renaissance. So, during the early Renaissance, we have 4 artists. So, first, we have Giotto di Bondone. Anyway, please forgive me for the mispronunciation of their names because I'm not familiar really with their names. So please bear with me. Okay, anyway, Giotto di Bondone is an Italian painter from 1267 to 1337. He is the most important Italian painter of the 14th century whose works points to the innovators of the Renaissance style that developed a century later. So he has 3 major artworks, which are Madonna Enthroned, Madonna and Child, and The Flight into Egypt. In addition, with his background, let me check first. Giotto Giotto is also called the father of the Renaissance. He is considered the father of the Renaissance because of his innovations and use of different techniques. The second artist is, we don't have the picture, Donato di Nicolede Beto Bardi. He is a sculptor from 1386 to 1467. He was one of the forerunners of Florentine art, which also paved way for the age of Renaissance art. His works mainly comprise of low reliefs, statues, usually from woods and bronze. So, ang yang ginagamit niya nga material is kahoy o bronze. So, another information about him is his techniques is usually Donato created his own form of relief in sculpted marble panels called shiatsu. This translates in English as flattened out. This technique allowed a far shallower carving that gave a sense of depth. The principal subject of the panel appeared to pop off the sculpture work. So the third artist during the Renaissance or during the early Renaissance is Masaccio or Tommaso Casai. He is a painter like the first artist, like Giotto, from 1401 to 1428. He inspired the style of art that exemplifies art of the Renaissance period. He developed a style that used perspective in a way that created an illusion of 3 dimension, a significant change from medieval flat style of painting. So, he has actually 4 artworks, which are the Tribute, the Holy Trinity, Expulsion, Madonna and Child and Angels. And the last artist is Filippo Brunelleschi. Okay. He is different. So he is an architect and an engineer from 1377 to 1446. So if we look back, Giotto is a painter. The same with Masaccio. Then the other one is a sculptor, Donatello. Then Filippo here is an architect and an engineer as well. He was one of the pioneers of the early Renaissance architecture in Italy who invented the linear perspective. So, as you notice that these four artists during the early Renaissance, basically they are an Italian. So, anyway, Filippo has three major artworks which are Dome of Florence Cathedral from 1418 to 1436, Basilica of St. Lawrence from 1422 to 1470, and Papsi Chapel from 1441 to 1460.
High Renaissance artist Leonardo da Vinci. He is skilled and knowledgeable in many subjects including science, mathematics, and most importantly art. Si Leonardo da Vinci ay isang pintor ng Italyano noong ika-15 siglo. Skulptor, arkitekto, inhiyero at siyentista. Siya ay isa sa mga pangunahing tagalabas ng Renaissance. Ang lahat ng mga gawa, teksto at exploratory na anotasyon na ginawa niya ay itinuturing na mga piraso ng sine. Naitaguyod niya ang kanyang sarili sa daang siglo bilang isa sa pinakahuhusay na pintor, kabilang sa iba pang mga gawa. Si Da Vinci ay ang may akda ng mga Mona Lisa o kilala bilang ang Gioconda. Gumawa din siya ng isa sa pinakatanyag na bersyon ng Ang Huling Hapunan. Kabilang sa mga dakilang kontribusyon ni Leonardo da Vinci sa mundo ng sine ay representasyon ng espasyo bilang isang bagay na three-dimensional, tulad ng figura ng tao at iba pang mga bagay. Nagawa niyang synthesize ang mga elemento ng agham sa loob ng pagpapatupad ng sining at iyon ang isa sa kanyang mahusay na mga kontribusyon. Major artworks ni Leonardo da Vinci. Una, The Last Supper, Tempera on Gesso, Peach and Mastic in 1495-1498. The Last Supper, sa mga mabuting balita ng mga Kristiyano, ang huling hapunan ay ang huling pagkain ni Jesus na kasalo niya ang 12 alagad at iba pang mga disipulo bago ang kanyang kamatayan. Daging paksa ang huling hapunan ng maraming mga larawang na ipinta at ang isa sa mga pinakabantog ay ang dibuhong nilikha ni Leonardo da Vinci. Pangalawa, Mona Lisa, gawa sa oil on cotton wood in 1503 to 1519. Ang Mona Lisa ay isang ika-12 na taong pintang larawan sa langit sa isang panel o entrepanyong gawa sa kahoy na poplar ni Leonardo da Vinci noong panahong Italianong Renascimento. Pag-aari ang dibuhong ito ng pamahalang Francis at nakatanghal sa Museo ng Louvre sa Pransya na pinamagatang larawan ni Lisa del Giocondo, kabiyak ni Francesco del Giocondo. The Annunciation, oil on panel in 1472 to 1475. Annunciation, also called Annunciation to the Blessed Virgin Mary, or Annunciation of the Lord. In Christianity, the announcement by the angel Gabriel to the Virgin Mary that she would conceive a son by the power of the Holy Spirit to be called Jesus. Adoration of the Magi, under painting on panel in 1481. The Adoration of the Magi or Adoration of the Kings is the name traditionally given to the subject in the Nativity of Jesus in art in which the three Magi, represented as kings, especially in the West, having found Jesus by following a star, lay before him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and worship him. Michelangelo Buonarroti. Si Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni, mas kilala bilang Michelangelo lamang, ay isang manlilihok, arkitekto, pintor at manunula noong Renascimento. Major artworks: The Sistine Chapel Ceiling Fresco 1508 to 1512. The Sistine Chapel ceiling, painted in fresco by Michelangelo between 1508 and 1512, is a cornerstone work of high Renaissance art. The Sistine Chapel is the large papal chapel built within the Vatican between 1477 and 1480 by Pope Sixtus IV, for whom the chapel is named. The ceiling was painted at the commission of Pope Julius II. David, made of marble in 1501 to 1504. Michelangelo defined David's statue has captivated the world for centuries, considered one of art history major masterpieces. The marble sculpture showcases both the artist's skill and the fine art focus that defines the Renaissance. Pieta, made of marble in 1498 to 1499. Pieta. The Pieta is a key work of Italian Renaissance sculpture by Michelangelo Buonarroti, now in St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City. It is the first of a number of works of the same subject by the artist. St. Peter's Basilica. Architecture in 1546 to 1564. The St. Peter Basilica, the Papal Basilica of St. Peter in the Vatican, or simply St. Peter's Basilica, is a church built in the Renaissance style located in Vatican City, the papal enclave that is within the city of Rome, Italy. Rafael Sancho. He was best known for the perfection and grace in his artwork. He was considered as a great master among Leonardo da Vinci at Michelangelo in the High Renaissance period. Si Rafael Sancho ay isang Italianong pintor at arkitekto ng High Renaissance noon. Pinagdiriwang sa kanyang kawastuan at kariktan ng kanyang mga pinta at guhit, kasama sina Michelangelo at Leonardo da Vinci. Binubuo niya ang tradisyonal na santatlo ng mga dakilang mga maestro ng panahong iyon. Major artworks of Rafael Sancho. School of Athens, fresco in 1509 to 1510. School of Athens. The School of Athens is a fresco by the Italian Renaissance artist Raphael. The fresco was painted between 1509 and 1511 as a part of Raphael's commission to decorate the rooms how known as the Stanze di Raffaello in the Apostolic Palace in the Vatican. Portrait of Pope Julius II, made oil on wood in 1511 to 1512. Portrait of Pope Julius II is an oil painting 1512 by the Italian High Renaissance painter named Raphael. The portrait of Pope Julius II was unusual for its time and would carry a long influence on papal portraiture. Three Graces, made oil and panel in 1500 to 1505. Taking its motif from ancient Greek literature, the Three Graces depicts the three daughters of Zeus, each of whom is described as being able to bestow a particular gift on humanity. From left to right, Euphrosyne, birth, Aglaia, elegance, and Thalia, youth and beauty. In Roman mythology, they were known as the Gratia. More commonly, the three lovely ladies, whom are sisters, are called the Three Graces. Late Renaissance Mannerist artist. Tiziano Vecellio. Tiziano Vecellio, or Vecellio in English as Titan, was an Italian painter of the Renaissance, considered the most important member of the 16th century Venetian school. He was born in Pieve di Cadore, near Biliono. During his lifetime, he was often called the Cador, from Cador taken from his native region. Major artworks of Titian Vesaliu. The Rape of Europa, made in oil and canvas in 1560 to 1562. The Rape of Europa is a painting by the Venetian artist Titian painted in 1560 to 1562. It is in the permanent collection of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum of Boston, Massachusetts. The oil on canvas painting measure in 178 by 205 centimeters. Sacred and Profane Love, made in oil and canvas in 1513 to 1514. Sacred and Profane Love is an oil painting by Titian, probably painted in 1514. Early in his career, the painting is presumed to have been commissioned by Niccolo Aurelio, a secretary to the Venetian Council of Ten, whose coat of arms appears on the sarcophagus or fountain. To celebrate his marriage to a young widow, Laura Bagaruto, it perhaps depicts a figure representing the bride dressed in white, sitting beside Cupid and accompanied by the goddess Venus. El Greco, most widely known as El Greco, was a Greek painter, sculptor, and architect of the Spanish Renaissance. Major artworks of El Greco. The Resurrection, made in oil on canvas in 1584 to 1594. The resurrection of Jesus Christ means that God the Father will give His Holy Spirit to believers. After Christ had risen and ascended, He sent the promised Holy Spirit to continue His work on earth. This means that Christ's earthly ministry continues today through His people in whom He dwells by the Holy Spirit. The Assumption of the Virgin, oil on canvas in 1566 to 1579. Assumption of the Virgin. Assumption Day commemorates the belief that when Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, died, her body was assumed into heaven to be reunited with her soul instead of going through the natural process of physical decay upon death. The Holy Trinity, oil on canvas in 1577 to 1579. A Trinity doctrine is commonly expressed as the statement that the one God exists as or in the three equally divine persons, the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. Every term in this statement, God exists as or in equally divine person, has been variously understood.
Fine art, drawing, sculpting, painting, literature, music, dance, architecture, and theater, are a product of these disciplines. The Baroque period saw an explosion of new musical styles with the introduction of the concerto and the sonata and the opera.
Baroque period 1600 to 750 AD. The Baroque period is a time period in European art history characterized by a heightened sense of drama, richness, and extravagance. It began in the 16th century and lasted until the 7th century. This was a time of great change and progress as artists experimented with new techniques and looked to make their work more dramatic and expressive. Also, this period of art is often associated with use of light and color, and the emphasis on symmetry and order.
Rococo. It is also referred to as Latte Baroque, an artistic movement that developed in the early part of the 18th century in Paris. Rococo is marked by elaborate ornamentation as with an abundance of scrolls, greenery, and animal forms. Rococo is a style of short curves, scroll, and counter curves, often elaborate with fantasy. Now, often the paintings depict a peaceful natural setting with the feathery trees and sprays of foliage. The paintings features beautiful aristocrats in gorgeous clothing.
Neoclassicism. It started in 1760 as a reaction against Baroque and Rococo styles. Neoclassicism is characterized by order, symmetry, and simplicity of style.
Romanticism from 719 to 1880. So it began as a literary and philosophical movement. The term comes from the Romance, means a prose or poetic narrative, favoring heroism. Romanticism favored wildness and expression individually and unstoppable creativity. So, major artists in the 17th to 19th century during the Baroque, Rococo, Neoclassicism, and Romanticism. So, during the Baroque, we have 5 artists, namely Peter Paul, Rubens, Giovanni, Lorenzo, Bernini. Then, during the Rococo, Antoine Watteau, Jean-Baptiste Van Loo. Antoine Watteau, Jean-Baptiste Van Loo, Jean-Honoré Fragonard. So, Neoclassicism, Jacques, forgive me for the for the pronunciation again. Louis David, Jean Auguste or Ingres. Then the last one, Romanticism, Theodore Géricault, Eugene Delacroix, Caspar David, Friedrich Turner. Okay. We have an artwork, the Ecstasy of Centuries. It is made out of marble from 1647 to 1658. One of the sculpture masterpiece of the High Baroque art by Giovanni Lorenzo Bernini. So, the interpretation of the artist is that the sculpture portrays the saint's overpowering sense of spiritual pleasure in serving Christ. Bernini employs imagery which suggests sensual pleasure, but only in order to convey the tangible nature of Teresa's experience, which is manifestation of her love of God and her yearning for spiritual union. So basically, his medium is a sculpture. The second one, artwork, is the Out of the Horate, made out of oil on canvas by Jacques Louis David. The artist's interpretation of his art, or her art, is that it depicts a scene from a Roman legend about a 7th century BC dispute between two warring cities, the Rome and the Alba Longa, and stresses the importance of patriotism and masculine self-sacrifice for one's country. The third artwork is The Happy Accident of the Swing. The artist is Jean Honoré Fragonard. The same oil on canvas. The interpretation of the artist of his artwork is the swing depicts a young man, a young woman. No. The swing depicts a young man which is concealed in the foliage, who is watching a young woman on a swing. At the time, a swing was a conventional symbol of infidelity. She is being pushed by an elderly man in the background who has no idea of the young man's presence. In addition, in the center of the painting stands a young woman, which is Baron's mistress on a swing, she is mischievously throws her shoe, which is a sign of sensuality towards her lover, revealing at the same time her ankle, which at the time had a eminently erotic connotation. The fourth artwork is made by Eugene Delacroix, The Liberty Leading the People. It is oil on canvas, 1830. What does liberty leading the people signify? It is characterized by its allegorical and political significance. This large oil on canvas has become a universal symbol of liberty and democracy, often used in popular culture, symbolize people emancipation from oppressive domination. It is one of the most famous painting in art history. The Liberty Leading the People is a painting commemorating the July Revolution of 1830. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to message us to our group chat, and feel free to give insights and additional information with regards to our topic. Thank you and God bless, mates.